To a hammer, indeed, everything looks like a nail. That saying that to a hammer, everything looks like a nail is meant to mean that we have a narrow-minded focus. That the things that we either are born with or that we have specifically trained for, we tend to see opportunities to deploy whatever that skill or talent is into the world because it's either easy for us to do or we're highly skilled at it or some combination of both. And it is in part something that's called confirmation bias, in which we tend to seek out the things that support that which we already know and believe. And it's also part survival and, neurologically our reticular activating system, which tags various different things in our environment as significant because we have certain things top of mind. So, for example, I've been a practitioner of and a fan of martial arts for as long as I can remember. And the same thing with music, and also the same thing with mystical subjects. Now, and also science and philosophy. Science and philosophy tend to be a little more grounded and useful than some of the mystical arts and subjects that I've looked into, specifically anything that can be considered supernatural, paranormal, or metaphysical. A lot of the stuff is largely nonsense. Philosophy and science, however, can be very useful. Music is also entertaining and cathartic, and some people can earn money from it. And martial arts is also healthy living for me, and it helps to build confidence, and you can understand self-defense and be confident in that way, and so on. But because of those three M's, I'll call them metaphysics, which covers the science, philosophy, and spirituality, or as I've said before, I called it mysticism, but I'll just call it spirituality. So metaphysics, music, and martial arts. These are my three perception hammers. And because of that, I see the world as being a place that I can deploy my understanding of these things upon. And it's also a symptom of believing that you can do what you love and the money will follow. And this world that we live in is such a challenging one for so many of us. It's difficult. It's very sobering. And there seems to be scarcity run amok. Something that I'm often hearing about now and I have experience with is the cost of living crisis, and everything with community and family and relationships and sexuality and dating. It's a lot of it's a jumbled mess, and people are struggling. And so much of the information that we're finding online and just in a lot of media in general, it's not just that the internet came out and there were hucksters, tricksters, grifters, deceivers, and liars running about telling us things, but there's just constantly a stream of very opportunistic things that that don't seem to serve us very well. And so we have to be honest about how it is that we're perceiving the world, the lens at which we're viewing the world, and if it has any kind of utility beyond our passions. I've been lately hearing about something called Ikigai, Ikigai. It's a Japanese term that, from what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, that it means that there's some things that you are passionate about, that you love, that you're really good at, that the world needs, and aka you can earn money from. And so a lot of times, and I am definitely part of this, so I'm not excluding myself from that confirmation bias and understanding that my reticular activating system that adds significance to things based on my belief systems and my experiences, my memories, and my environment. I have found that in some ways you can, just by brute force, you can turn those things that you love as long as you're really good at them. And to amend in a way what the definition of that the world needs it means that it's something that's useful to people, that's wanted, needed, and useful. Because sometimes there are things that are wanted that are not needed or useful. And there's things that are needed that are not necessarily wanted. Like a lot of people, we need to have a job to exist in this world, but we don't want to work some of the jobs that we do. But inevitably, this is the way that the system of the world that we live in works. And that's really a lot about what this is that my perception hammers of metaphysics, music, and martial arts, I've been searching for ways to earn my living from these things for years, and at times I was doing a lot of that, and but through extensions. So mainly for 9 years I worked at a gym, and I was able to teach martial arts for 9 years, but it was a position in where I was a professional sub, so I basically was on call. And because I taught so many different formats, I also taught yoga and Pilates and, mat Pilates. And I taught boxing, kickboxing, some class called Firm Fusion, a boot camp class, kids karate. And I was on call for that. And so I got to teach a lot of classes. And, I work in film and TV from time to time doing props and special effects. And then I do security work. And then I do gig work in between. And just basically, I've been also just self-funding the upkeep of being able to do those things. Like, I want to study metaphysics and create music and practice martial arts and do those things because they're enjoyable, mostly for that reason. Because life really is so challenging and difficult, and it can be very disheartening at times, that we need to have some reprieve. We need to have some breaks. Dare I say, escapes. But the limitations I put on that, I feel like there are a lot of things that I could definitely escape into. I could definitely do a lot of binge watching of shows, which I have done before on a regular basis. I could definitely, sit around more and just consume media. But overall, fortunately, one of the things that I do, which is martial arts, which encompasses fitness and healthy living, at least from my perspective, fortunately, it's something that's really useful and has given to me through the consistent practice of it. It's bestowed upon me through, I've earned through my practice an uncanny, abnormal amount of vitality and energy and endurance and strength and so many other things in my physical body. And a lot of this is largely just accidental in a lot of ways, because it was one of the only things that I could do growing up without a lot of money, growing up poor, that I could just claim for myself. I could be arrogant and claim for my own. That's the definition of the word arrogare, to claim for one's own. But I could just go out into my backyard and pretend to be a ninja, or watch kung fu movies and mimic the moves, and every once in a while go to a free class or workshop and learn some moves here and there, and then, spar or brawl with, friends and people around the neighborhood in New York and whatnot. And so I completely, just by chance, became obsessed with basically fighting, and then learned that there's people who earn money from fighting, and one of the things that you do to get good at that is being physically fit for sports combat, and and all the things that accompany that you hear about, like eating healthy and sleeping well and stretching, and doing the cardio work, the road work for boxers, running, all this stuff. And so basically it's proximally, right? It's being a combat sports practitioner, participant, martial artist. It's really a cousin. It's of the fitness industry. It shares very many of the same elements, and if you look at it from that perspective, which I do, it's a booming industry. And so again, my point is that I really just fumbled into this because of the circumstances of my life, and then fortunately I realized that I really like it, that I'm obsessed with it, because it was cool, right? Because other people, your friends, think it's cool. Oh wow, look at that kick you could do. And growing up and being athletic, all the girls thought it was cool, like wow, look at him. And then also because I'm very fit, so they like a fit physical body and all of that, right? And I don't know, maybe I might be handsome or something like that, because I tend to get a lot of attention. So I have a lot of things working in my favor, and I have all my life. It's actually a form of privilege, not the same kind of privileges that come with, ethnicity or anything like that, because I'm brown skinned. My parents are Caribbean, they're from Trinidad, so I have Indian and African descent. But by sheer coincidence, I have tended to stick to certain things that have, in metaphysics, there's, an intellectual, academic, value to them, because it requires study and reading and critical thinking sometimes, although a lot of the mystical, spiritual, new age, new thought type of stuff really has very little to do with critical thinking. But the science does, and so does philosophy. And then music has, entertainment and therapeutic value in a lot of ways, just as there is dance involved, as well as martial arts has therapeutic value. But also, when you look at it from a fitness perspective, you can see that this is something that's much needed by people. Now, what am I talking about here? Why am I talking about that to a hammer everything looks like a nail, and my 3 perception hammers? Well, it's because of a combination of things. And it has really been brought to my attention about, just from years of study, things that I wanted to be true, and people who I wanted to believe in. It turns out not to be what it is. And I think that for far too long, I've held on to the pursuit of certain things to maybe the detriment of other progress, although I don't know. Because the truth is that, again, the world is very difficult. It's challenging. So many things seem almost impossible for so many people with finances and money and relationships and just the state of the world. It really feels like a lot of times that it's being controlled by supervillains. Now, a lot of that seems bleak and cynical, and it is. I'm not going to pretend that a lot of times the world doesn't feel like I'm angry about a lot of things. But fortunately, I stumbled upon being a martial artist and have been doing it for 30, 40 years. I kind of vacillate between those two numbers because I know that I've been doing it for a long time, but 34 years was when I really found Capoeira, for example, and really had something more structured to put the philosophies that I learned from Miyamoto Musashi and Bruce Lee into. You know, I had sort of a system. I knew that there were things called Jinga, the swing. I knew certain kicks and escapes. I had sort of a foundation. It was like the first time I really had something codified to put it into, and that was back in 1992. And because of that, of just being obsessed with it, I've learned that martial arts, and I can really speak only from whatever mutation and hybrid of capoeira that I have that's combined with boxing and wrestling and other stuff, that I can safely say that training in martial arts is in itself not enough. That the fact that I've combined it with, philosophical, scientific, and spiritual studies is part of it. And also the fact that it has music in it and singing and dance is an incredible art form. And I would definitely recommend that people look into it as something to practice for just their overall health and benefit, and do your best to not get caught up with the very colonized version of it where I call it the Hollywood version, which I have some aspects of that because I can do backflips and 540 spins and some fancy looking stuff, but it doesn't have much to do with combat. It's just I like to show off, and it's fun. Showing off gets you attention, and people like it. Your friends are impressed, the girls like it. It's all of that stuff is in it, and it's cool. But it also, because of the movement and because of doing it so long, I've been able to extrapolate or extract or learn and understand parts of it that contribute to what I call athletic longevity, which I think is a term I'm borrowing from the Athletic Truth Group, Ben Patrick, the knees over toes guy. But what I also call hyper athleticism, because I'm in a very small percentage of people in my age demographic that is able to consistently do the things that I am able to do physically. I'm 48, going to be 49 this year, and I'm doing backflips and jumping, running, crawling, squatting, climbing, spinning, all this stuff at a very high level, doing heavy bag workouts that are 5 minutes long for 5 rounds, and it's not easy. It takes a lot of dedication, and I pretty much do some little thing every single day throughout everything that I do. While I'm doing gig work, while I'm out shopping, I do a lot of squats. I lift in a certain way. In like if I have to pick up something heavy, like these 40 packs of water, even the 24 packs of water, it doesn't have to be that heavy, but I carry everything in a certain way, as if I'm just doing everything in a proper form and being very aware of my body all the time and how it's moving and how I'm using it. And I'm constantly thinking about how is this going to either improve or maintain my physicality. It's an obsession. And in some ways what I'm saying, it correlates with, when people say to me things like, you must spend all day in the gym. Well, in a way, yeah. I mean, I have a concept that I created a long time ago called hypnoathletics. The website is eym.hypnoathletics.com. You can get to it by plugging in hypnoathletics.com. It's hypnoathletics.com, hypnoathletics.com, which says hypnoathletics is exercising your mind towards universal harmony and spiritual wisdom through healthy living and self-defense. So am I saying that? When people say that you must spend all day in the gym, well, in a way, I'm in a mental gym. I'm constantly working out things in my mind and realizing that in order to succeed and to be better and to at least be good at this thing, even if this thing is not directly earning me money right now, like if I'm not working at a gym as a personal trainer or a group fitness instructor or don't have clients, right? That I'm in this mental gym all the time, that I know that it's good for me, and in a couple of ways. Some of them being, social, in that like I said, it's impressive to people. It's can be a form of entertainment, right? And but also it just keeps my body physically healthy and strong. And again, I'm circling around this idea, but it's really about the fact that I've just been disillusioned by the amount of deception and just really poor advice that we're giving that just misleads a lot of people. And sometimes it makes me wonder if there's an agenda or a reason for all of this, because personal experience just doesn't bear out some of the things that people have been saying. Like, I went to a school, the University of Metaphysical Sciences, that you get a PhD in metaphysics, and a lot of that stuff there's a lot of angelology and like mythology, and there's a lot of stuff that comes from New Age and New Thought, and a lot of things that I just know not to be true from personal experience. And the most real thing that I know is, that, or the real things that I know are that, yes, I mean, everybody knows this, that you can just practice certain things and get really good at them. And that can be anything. And it can be things that some people might say are useless. Like, some people could say that gaming and playing video games all day is useless. Well, maybe it is, but in this world in which money is needed, there are people who earn money gaming. Now, I'm sure that it's not a very large percentage of people, but some people are doing it. Some people are earning money doing lots of things. There are people who earn money playing music, but not to the level that everybody wants to. There are people who are earning money who do philosophy and science and spirituality, like churches or mega churches even, but not everybody. There are people who earn money in fitness and martial arts. There are some people who do that, but not everybody. And the thing is that in this world, what I'm understanding is probably one of the more important aspects that we have to develop, and I'm going to continue to really get into this more and more, is that if we're going to be on this planet, we have to realize that there are lots of ups and downs in life. That it's far from perfect. We all know that. That it's difficult, it's challenging. Things may even be stacked against us. And we have to accept that if we're going to stay here. But we don't have to always be happy about it. We can be downright angry about it. But when we are, it's best if we can help it to not take it out on other people. That golden rule says, do unto others as you'll have them do unto you, which is also not easy. It's very difficult. But I do know that we can keep on striving and that we can keep on pushing. And that as sad as it feels sometimes, and sometimes you just feel like yelling, screaming, crying, throwing your hands up in the air and giving up. But I think that from my personal experience, it's much more difficult when people, like, we tend to turn to poisoning ourselves by overeating or just eating bad things for us, and then drugs and alcohol especially, and tobacco. These things weigh on us. They actually add extra weight to you in metaphorical and literal ways that make life more difficult. And so one of the most oppressive forms of indoctrination and slavery that persist across the earth, that from what I call the global brainwashing agenda of the verifiers, their intrusion vector into our minds, which I'm being very deliberate using those terms because I wrote a book called The Intrusion Vector, Metaphysical Catalog of Abduction. And it's science fiction, but it's true to me in some ways, just as an idea and a way of understanding, a way to look at the world, because I don't understand really what's going on for the most part. But what I do know for sure is that it's wrong for our bodies for us to be poisoning ourselves, because I know we don't have to. I've experimented extensively with eating and moving, and I know for a fact that, for me at least, I am able to deal with the troubles and difficulties of the world in a much higher way because I'm physically fit. And I know it's difficult to be physically fit. And I know that I'm mentioning this, I'm in a privileged situation. I don't have children. I'm by myself most of the time. It's just me that I'm concerned about. And so my position is not very relatable to other people, except for the fact that I can just say that the closer we can strive to being physically fit, and maybe doing that through martial arts, and even more specifically looking for or even starting Capoeira groups, learning the basic Jenga and those movements, and maybe building a community off of that, and sharing recipes and how to really actually eat healthy and clean living, which is, eating foods that have the least amount of additives in them. Just because I know this from my personal experience, that as difficult as the world is, as anxiety producing and depression creating it is, as sad and angry that we can become sometimes, but this is one of the things that we can control, is what we learn about how we eat and move, and then the choices we make about what we put in our bodies and what we do with our bodies. And to also just unreasonably demand of yourself to have an unshakable confidence that you can live your life to the fullest, but you start with the sovereignty, the control over your body, because it just seems like what else could be possibly happening when so many of the largest companies in the world that we buy food from are literally poisoning us slowly by putting all of these crazy additives and things in the food that are completely unnecessary. It's almost as if the human body is being used as a living garbage processing and disposal system. Because a lot of the stuff that comes from the processing of, industry and then gets sold in different amounts in different ways and packaged certain ways to food processors can't be dumped out into landfills and in the oceans, as they are. But you can certainly put them through a human body, and then we pee it out and excrete it, and and then of course then it can go in through the sewers and into the oceans and into the land that way. And yeah, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. It sounds like something crazy, but like I said, I admit I don't know what's going on in the world. It just that there's not a lot of good things happening, and people like you and I are carrying the weight of doing most of the labor for the smallest amounts of pay. And yeah, there's leverage. And I'm not saying that I'm down and out and I'm not doing anything about it. I'm taking full advantage of things, like I'm building businesses and I'm finding out more about certain things that I can do. I mean, I have things I don't want to talk about it because I live by this thing that says, tell the world what you're going to do, but first show them. But I'm under no illusion that it's not difficult, and that for the most part we are really at a disadvantage. We are the underdogs, and if we can't find a community to band together with, then we at least as individuals need to be as physically and mentally healthy as we possibly can. And that includes our emotions, which I often equate with really what spirituality is, because mental and physical health can help you to be more emotionally stable, or at least more emotionally in control, and just doing things like breathing exercises and sleeping well and eating well. And then I also have an understanding that there is no difference between our physical, mental, and spiritual lives, that we are really all one, that the universe is eternal. And you can look up my work on that, like the eternality axiom and the omnifactor paradigms of why I understand and believe that. And so that what this is all really saying is that if we want to be better mentally and spiritually, that we can work on what we think about our bodies, what we say about our bodies, and what we do with our bodies, meaning how we think about nutrition and exercise, what we say about nutrition and exercise, and what we do about eating and moving. And again, like I said, I'm recommending martial arts, and more specifically Capoeira, not because even Capoeira is like some effective, ultimate martial art that you're going to beat everybody, because that's just not a thing that's going to happen, but that it has so many things with music and dance and all that movement together with martial arts, that it's a really great thing to have a lot of outlets with. I mean, you can sing, you can dance, you can kick, you can cartwheel, you can roll. Like, there's things you can learn, and you can adapt it to what your own physical body currently can do. And I don't think that you need to necessarily find a Capoeira academy or a school or a group. You can start your own. I have videos online that teach you how to do the basic footwork. And when you learn the basic footwork, the jinga, the swing, and then you learn a front kick, and then you learn and the esquivas, and you learn how to, advance and retreat with footwork and circle. You can start to put together basic games, and you can start to do pickup games with friends, and you can start to play and dance like that together, and do it in a way where it's this beautiful art where you can get physical exercise together and be part of a community. And then throw on top of that learning how to eat really well, and then understanding that the community together, and the fact that if you're happy with each other and you're having fun, that's a spiritual thing, and all of it together really is a spiritual activity. And we have to do something, because this place, even though if I might be completely crazy, It doesn't seem like it's for us, or that there are forces and people and organizations out there that seek to control the masses and really destabilize and unbalance the resources in the hands of a few to the detriment and on the backs of the many. But that does not mean that we don't need to strive and that we cannot build up our own emotional states and personalities and our strength and persevere. Because through all of it, I know that there are ups and downs in life and in our emotions, but that in no way should we give up. That we need to be as strong as we possibly can be, and that's going to be different things for different people because everybody is living a different life. And you never know what somebody is going through. So we need to practice what I call luck, L-U-C-K, love, understanding, compassion, and kindness. And I know it's not easy, and I'm not perfect at it. But I understand that this is a way. And this is the way of my martial arts, my Do. My Hakim Do, the way of Hakim. I really do wish the best for everybody because I am part of everybody. And I wish the best for myself. And I know that the better that each individual does, the better that the world does. And the clearer that we can see things for what they are, and that we don't get disillusioned by all of these strange teachings and misleading things that cause us to waste our time and dissipate our energy. I'm stating and asserting that healthy living and self-defense is the way to go, and healthy living is a form of self-defense. That we just need to combine the understanding of clean living, clean food, and being as mobile as we possibly can. We're able to navigate life much better than if we don't. I mean, you can think about it like a vehicle. Your body's a vehicle. And the better you keep your car or any other vehicle maintained, the better you're able to navigate the world and get around in it. And that's really what it comes down to and what the basis of what I'm saying is. Even the Shaolin monks in the way that we know them now started by a black Indian monk, Bodhidharma, who traveled from India to China and saw that the monks had flimsy bodies and they were meditating for enlightenment, and then showed them that practicing yoga and martial arts and making their bodies strong, that they were able to find and seek enlightenment in a much better way. And that's what I'm saying, is that it's one of the things that you have the most control over is how you think about, what you speak about, and what you do about your nutrition and your body. You have so much control over that. And you should practice that as much as possible as a form of healthy living and self-defense in a hostile world. It's not hostile because of other people like you and I. It's hostile because nature itself can be hostile. And that fences and walls have been put around nature, and people have been kept off of the land from what true wealth is, which is the produce of the land and the labor of humankind on that land. But we're separated from it, and there's so many go-betweens and middlemen that we have to go through to get our food rather than producing it for ourselves. And this is by design, and it's not the best design for all of us. But again, I know it sounds bleak and sometimes sounds like conspiracy theories and maybe sounding cynical. But what I'm saying is that you need to take control of that thing that you have, your body, by putting into it the cleanest food that you possibly can. In some ways, this works on that whole idea of voting with your dollar. If you stop buying junk food and stop buying poison and stop buying all these food with the additives, and it's difficult. I know. It's one of the reasons why I don't eat as many calories and why I stay fit is because healthier foods, unfortunately, are more expensive, and so you don't get as much of them. But there's a trade-off, because a lot of times they are more nutrient dense. And so I'm able to exist at a high level and have high energy and sleep well and feel well and perform well because I'm eating less food, but I'm eating less of more that's really a tongue twist for me, of more nutrient dense foods that are higher quality. And so, and I've even looked at packages and seen things like this, where I looked at a certain, like there was these chicken meatballs or these other chicken nuggets, and they were a much heavier package, like at a pound, but the amount of protein they had was maybe 8 to 12 grams, whereas another 6-ounce bag of this grilled chicken has some like 22 grams of protein in it, right? So it's half the amount, right? Less than half the amount, less than half a pound, right? That's 6 ounces, but has more than twice the amount of protein in it, almost 3 times in some cases. And so I look at things like that, and I say, okay, that's going to be the trade-off. Maybe I'm not getting as many calories, but I'm getting the nutrients that I need from it. And I don't want to get too hung up on that, but I do understand that this monologue went in a lot of different directions, but it's really all about the one same thing, and it's that this life in a lot of ways is a crazy shit show, and it can be very depressing and aggravating. And there's been so many times in my life where I just feel like I just want to end it and not be here anymore, but I'm definitely not going to do that, because I'm also going to brainwash myself with the romantic, honorable ideal of being a warrior. And I'm just going to fight my way through this life because I've at least discovered something that I can be successful at. That at all these years that I've been on this earth, and I'm still hyper athletic and highly intelligent and emotionally stable and talented, well, I think that I'm winning in a lot of ways. So despite all of the other financial and professional roadblocks and things that are more challenging to someone like me who's had to really figure it out mostly on my own, I haven't given up. I'm not giving up. And I can see just every day I make improvements. So really, a lot of it just requires a shift in my own attitude. Things are going to be okay. Somehow they always have been. How is it that I'm in a position that I'm in to even be talking about what I'm talking about in the way that I'm talking about it? To exist and have the body that I have that is able to do the things that I'm doing, right? I'm doing something right. I'm winning in this way. So, overall, what can I really say against it? The only thing is that I know, because of contrast, that a lot of people aren't winning in this way. And that goes back to the understanding of Ikigai. That this is something that I enjoy doing, that I'm really good at, that the world needs it, and I can earn money from it. And that's my leg up in the world. That's my foot in the door, besides the other things that I do and that I understand, and the business endeavors that I'm embarking upon, and so on and so forth. And so, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And from my perception hammer's viewpoint, there are very many scientific, philosophical, and spiritual nails, musical, singing, dancing nails, and martial arts nails, and physical fitness nails that need to be pounded in. That I'm good at those things, that I enjoy them, I'm passionate about them, that the world needs them, and I can earn money from it. That's a very privileged position to be in. And I'm sad for the world sometimes, because not everybody understands that. And I'm going to continue to share to help people understand that. And that we need to unite together and make ourselves better as individuals and come together as groups. And little by little change this place. But I've also heard that, hard times make strong men. Easy times make weak men. So maybe that's why I'm so strong. Because the times I've been living in have been very hard. I am Hakeem Ali Bokas Alexander.